Hello, Melissa Crook here on another Together We Feel panel. I'm so happy to be with you this Monday. It's June 8th. We're here live with some friends here from literally all over the world. We've got Canada, the US, and Europe covered, specifically France. So we're covering with many different ideas, backgrounds, input, but a collective care about today's topic of the impact of instant media on our mental, emotional, and physical health. We're going to hone in specifically on girls and women today because that is my passion point. But I'm also going to have articles linked in our show notes that talk about the overall impact on everyone, regardless of how you identify. So there's going to be more information on that. But the conversation itself, we focus on that. And we've got some great insights here from people who have seen it from multiple lenses, who have been around long enough. Mary and I have been around long enough to remember what life was like before the internet, before cell phones, before all that. And so to see the before and after and watch it kind of us grow older and up with it and navigate what it is to teach our younger generations to navigate it, even as we're learning to navigate it. Because I think that's the interesting thing is it's new to us too. So, I know as a parent, it was like having 3 daughters and trying to teach them how to navigate it. And it was changing all the time every day. And I was still figuring it out. And my husband we're like, how do we navigate something we don't even totally understand? So that's a part of it too. But before we get started, I want to share a few tidbits on a little research I did, and then we'll get to hear from our fabulous panelists. But instant media, like we see on socials, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, especially for the younger generation, profoundly impacts girls' and women's health. While it fosters community and health education, its algorithm-driven, image-centric nature primarily drives a lot of the severe mental health risks we see, including body dissatisfaction, disordered eating, anxiety, depression, and higher rates of cyberbullying. We're dealing with mental health and body image, unattainable beauty standards, constant exposure to highly curated, filtered, and altered images promotes unrealistic appearance ideals, which heavily contribute to body dissatisfaction and eating disorders, especially among teens. The social comparison, the algorithmic focus on thinspo or weight loss content can trigger body image disturbances and unhealthy dieting trends. Depression and anxiety. Research links heavy appearance-centric social media consumption to diminished self-esteem, sleep deprivation, and higher rates of depression and anxiety. Safety and harassment. Higher victimization. Across many demographics, girls experience significantly higher rates of cyberbullying and online harassment compared to boys. Image-based abuse. Women are disproportionately vulnerable to non-consensual image sharing or sextortion and technologically facilitated coercive control. So what do we do about all of this? Health information and community, educational access. Instant media can serve as an important educational and destigmatizing tool, expanding access to information about menstruation, contraception, and maternal wellness. There's more. We can find out and learn anything in an instant because of the access we have. It's created educational opportunities in ways that have never been available before to people who have never had an opportunity before. Digital support, telemedicine, health apps, online forums to allow women to track their symptoms, their cycles, share experiences, and find discreet healthcare support, which is vital when navigating stigma. There are misinformation risks because over 80% of internet users search for health data online. Women are also vulnerable to medical misinformation and false positive data regarding topics like endometriosis or oral contraceptives. So we do have to be mindful of these things, but we can have specific strategies, not tragedies. That's a terrible change of words there. Sorry about that. Specific strategies for building digital resilience and healthy social media habits, setting up timelines of when we won't be on social media. If you're raising kids, so timelines for them. When you are scrolling, think about that list of activities that nourish you. Is it maybe put a timer on that? All right, it's time to go for a walk outside. It's time to go water my plants. It's time to call a friend. Whatever those things are. And just make sure that when you're accessing stuff online, you're checking with your doctor. You're asking people that are reputable. So taking these things that can be, like anything, and we talked about this before we got on, this can be a powerful force for good, and it can be a powerful force for difficulty if we don't have some healthy parameters around it, some healthy guidelines, some healthy, like, I'm going to, I will take, I'm on all the time with the nature of the work I do. And also I need breaks. So I will let my team know I'm offline this weekend. There's nothing that's going to happen this weekend that is going to make the world come off its axis. So I'm going to take a break. And I notice the difference, and it helps me, and if we're modeling that, if you've got kids at home or grandkids or students that you're teaching or working with, modeling that to them as well, that this doesn't have to become a bad thing, but we got to have healthy conversations around it and its impact, so we know where that line is between where it starts becoming harmful versus where it's helping and supporting us. I can't imagine going through, I know we hate talking about this, but it's true, going through COVID 6 years ago without the access we had to the internet and the ability to still connect with people, continue our work in different ways, provide helpful resources. It also created some problems because some of us were online too much. And so again, it's that line of knowing where there's a line in the sand and having a lot of communication. So we're going to hear some great insights now from my panelists today who have a lot of experience in this area and all their various ways. I want to welcome Jess Van Rose, Dr. Fanny Boulanger, and Mary Rothwell for joining me today. We're going to start with you, Jess. Talk to me about why this conversation is important to you and your experience with it.
Yeah, so I run a media and wellness brand. So this topic is crucial for me because I feel like in my business, it is only fair that I talk about and show both the highlights and the real life side of things, because we all know Instagram is mostly your highlight reel, which honestly, it makes sense, right? Most people are
Absolutely.
not going on to be like sharing their tragedies, like you said earlier, Melissa,
Yeah. Like
right?
Freudian, not so flip. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have so many points written down here. So the first one I have here is that our nervous systems were never designed to be constantly available. And like
Yeah.
I've noticed even with myself, even if I have my phone on do not disturb, I am still very aware of it. And like
Mhm.
my nervous system is almost in like a state of hypervigilance and constantly scanning to see if a notification is coming in. You're always alert when your phone
Yeah.
is nearby. So that's a big one that I've noticed for myself. I've also found we've become less tolerant of the quiet because
Mm.
right? Like, because there's always something available at our fingertips, even if
Yeah.
it's just music, which I do love having my music on in the background, but I have now set time aside where I'm like, I want nothing. I want
Mhm.
no external output or input.
Yes. No
Yes,
noise.
exactly. Nothing. I want silence, just the sound of the birds or the cars driving by.
Mhm.
And then I think my other big one here was that I feel like a lot of times we can use social media or instant media, our phones, as avoidance of what we're really feeling inside and not wanting to deal with whatever is happening in our life. if we're bored, if we're sad, if like pretty much any emotion, we're like, okay, let me pick up my phone and see what else is happening in the world so that I can distract myself from what's going on inside me.
Yeah.
I feel like those are kind of the three biggest areas that I've struggled with and
Yeah.
that I've noticed and I have tried. So I feel like the advice that you gave earlier, setting aside time, having your screen times, um, that's definitely a big part. I think we just need to slow down a little bit,
Yeah.
like even think of when email became like super popular. And it's like everybody was just expecting immediate responses from you. And
Yes.
I feel like we have put that on ourselves now as well,
Yeah.
that especially in the work that we all do, like I'm not gonna lie there. I kind of feel like I have to be constantly available,
Yeah.
or at least available within a reasonable amount of time, like an hour or two.
Hmm.
And it's hard to slow down. It's hard to shut it off sometimes.
Yeah. It has created, I think, a false sense of urgency that
Yeah.
everything is a fire alarm and everything needs our immediate attention. And the thing I've noticed is I did something, I think it was the beginning of the year, where I turned off all my alerts. The
Mhm.
only alert I had on is from something from my family, like the ones that are highlighted. Like I get immediate alerts when I hear from them, but I turned off all my alerts because and I also, unless I needed it for an alarm, at a specific time, my phone is far away from me at night. I stop using it sometimes 8 o'clock, sometimes 9 o'clock. But after 9 o'clock, I'm just not on because I need to decompress and just get off. And I can even feel it, even if I'm like doing the New York Times crosswords, which I'm a big fan of on my phone. As I'm trying to think of a word or come up, I can't solve it. I can feel my body like tensing up. I'm like, 9 o'clock at night is not the time to do this. Do it tomorrow morning when you're drinking your coffee.
Exactly.
So even just paying attention to your body's signals. But yeah, I think that I did the same thing. I got to a point, and my husband was funny. He's like, you are the boss of you in your work. You get to decide when you respond to these things. And so I've become much better at like, these days are my days where I'm recording and creating content. Are my days where I'm responding to emails and I'm answering and getting back to people. And those are the days it's going to happen. And people will adjust and realize that, unless it's like time sensitive, like I need to reschedule this recording for tomorrow. Okay, well, I'm not going to wait until Monday or Friday on my admin days to address that. But I mean, so it's just being like, and tell them, hey, like, none of this is life altering information. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no, so yeah, just, and also we train people in terms
Mm,
of our responses to the instant. We train people what to expect from us.
yes.
So I think being mindful of that, of like, there's some things here that I get to decide, that I get to choose, and I can't, necessarily control the amount of things that come in. But I can shut up certain alerts. I can
Yeah.
make certain days the days I respond. I can decide, because I've also realized too, breaking news these days isn't the same as breaking news was when I was a kid. Breaking news when I was a kid meant there was an earthquake somewhere, and there's like immediate need needs to happen to these people. Now, breaking news is, somebody ran over somebody's dog, and that's not tragic, but the world's, is that breaking news? Well, for them it is, but I don't know if it is for the whole world. I think we need to be mindful of that was a terrible example, but it's early in the morning for me still. So, but this idea of what's breaking news now also. So we get to decide within ourselves what it is that is urgent. And this, just because it comes in all the time doesn't mean we have to immediately respond, but we have to like catch ourselves in that, because it's very easy to get trapped in that. All right,
Turning off
Mary.
filters was
Yes.
such a big game changer for me. I don't know if there's any other iPhone users, but you can have 10 of the do not disturb filters or focus settings. I have
Yeah.
all 10 of them
Yeah.
for different settings, different things. I love my do not disturb.
I know. And my phone is turned on off on like not getting notifications. And I mean, you're going to get a thing from me that she's got her notifications turned off and it's not on most of the time now. So it's not dinging at me unless I'm expecting, like, I need to hear from somebody. I need to know when that comes in. That's the only time I have it turned on. And oh, it does make a difference. Okay. Mary, you and I, we're together in this. We've been watching this for a while, life before, life during, and life not even after, it's now, because it's continuing to evolve as we watch AI become something it wasn't a year ago, 5 years ago. I mean, I'm tracking, we have our 5-year anniversary coming up on the podcast, and I'm doing this kind of little timeline of what was happening when I started it 5 years ago versus what is happening now. It is wild what has changed in just 5 years. But you have you have a background where you have worked on campuses with students, with women students for many, many years. You're a therapist, you have a book. Talk to me about what you've seen. Because you literally said before, she's like, everything that's happening, I knew I predicted because of my work in my background, in my education.
Yeah. Well, I did start as a nature girl, even from when I was young. First of all, because there was nothing else to do except read books and be outside and be on your bike and, you know,
and be curious and get bored.
Exactly. Play with your puppy. So then I went into the first job I had was working with high school students. And I was in the high school, working in with high school age when cell phones started to be a thing. And I remember the first time a principal came to me and said, so-and-so is crying in the bathroom. She won't come out. Can you go see what's going on? I go in. She said, my boyfriend broke up with me. And I said, well, he doesn't even go to this school. And she holds her phone up. So that is the beginning of this intrusion into every area of life. And that was one of those flashbulb moments for me where I'm like, okay, this is the beginning of a whole other world. And also having taught developmental psychology, the way our neurons develop as we start to, even from when we're born, we have way too many neurons. So as we learn, our brain figures out what does it need to prune away, because I'm also a gardener, which I'll get to in a second. The healthiest plants have pruning done to them, trees, shrubs. So even our brains need pruning. Well, now we hand phones to kids before they can speak sometimes. So when you think about what neural pathways are created by seeing these changing images constantly, the point was made, we don't know how to sit quietly anymore. Well, because we're training our brain to be in this hypervigilant state, which is totally unnatural. And the other thing that is kind of sad is, in order to interact and be part of a productive, supportive society, we need empathy. And with hiding behind screens, making cruel comments that we don't see the reaction to, studies have shown that empathy now develops at 12 instead of 8 years old. So we're starting to delay our ability to be kind, to be understanding, to really get what our reactions do to other people's state of mind, state of emotion. We are not able to regulate emotion anymore. So that is the first part of, why I started to hear these alarm bells. And you mentioned COVID. Well, that, of course, anxiety skyrocketed because all we have is what's happening. We're getting this constant fear, not that it was not that it was misplaced, but, and then the algorithm, it's going to keep showing you what you look for. So, an eating disorder, you could learn how to manage an eating disorder in the most unhealthy way because you want to lose weight. There's the information out there. I think I read 50% of the mental health information on TikTok is wrong. And so, again, we're inundated with this. It's safe because we think, okay, well, this person is an influencer or they're going through what I'm going through. And I can tell you as a therapist, there's the same diagnoses, but rarely does somebody else get to that diagnosis in their life in the same way, through the same experiences, the same DNA. So that's where my concern comes from. And now to sort of pull this all together, I work mostly with women now, and I use a lot of nature metaphors. I'm a forest therapy practitioner also. And the book that I just wrote is called Nature Knows, and it looks at how plants grow And how does that inform how we can do things like figure out how to set boundaries, figure out what environment we should be in? Because usually we will blame ourselves if we're struggling. But if we have a plant that's struggling, we look at what's happening around it. What nutrients doesn't it have? What light isn't it getting? But for us, it's a constant self-blame. A flower that blooms once a year is not going to look at the other flowers that bloom like constantly in the summer and compare itself. So our brain has become sort of this self-defeating mechanism sometimes. And so I really am trying to help people not just access how plants help us, but also just be in nature more, because that's something that helps us be calm, manage anxiety, and manage these symptoms of ADHD.
Yeah. The grounding from it, like it's literally scientific. And that's what I love about so much of what you share is that when you say that, when it's like, God, you wouldn't look at your plant and be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you?
You're so lazy.
Exactly. You would go like, what do I need to add in nutrients? Is any more water? Do you need more sunlight? Do you need to be next to another plant? I mean, you look at all of those things. So treat yourself. What do I need? How do I support myself? What's missing here? You were at Penn State for years. Talk to me about what did you see evolve with the college students as well?
Well, one of the things I remember, and I have never been on Snapchat, but I knew all about all this stuff because,
Right.
As I say, the kids told me. And I remember there's something called a streak where you have to send something to somebody every day. And the stress of that in some of their lives, I was just like, you don't even, you see them on campus.
Like, yeah, why do we need to send them something? Just go say hi.
So, it's been built in, and now I think there's I think it's on Instagram where you can always share your location so everybody knows where you are. Okay, and yes, I know what some people are thinking. Well, that's a safety thing. Well, it's also a stressful thing because here's what happened in my office. So and so was invited to a party and I wasn't. How do you know that? Because I saw their location and I saw the locations of my friends. So this gets extrapolated out and out and out so that literally they can't escape it, because also then they miss out on everything. And so it's really this stressor. And I remember when I was talking to a group of them once, and they would come up with gimmicks to try to get away from their phones. They put them in the middle of the table when they're at dinner together. And the first person to pick up and respond has to buy the dinner. So they tried it. They make it a game. How can I get away from my phone in a way that's, quote, socially acceptable? Instead of just, they recognize it. They recognize that this is eroding their ability to be in the world in a way that feels grounded and healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's that navigating piece. It's that, okay, I know this is having an impact on me. So how do I do this in a way? But yeah, that pressure. And it's interesting. So I am an advisor here on campus at Fresno State University with a group of women students at part of the Craig School of Business. And we work with them and just getting them ready to go out in the world after their degrees and be confident, know who they are, be able to talk about themselves and what they offer, show up in a room knowing they belong there, because many of them are going into environments that are still very male dominated fields. So how do they own who they are confidently and also come across as I'm also here to learn. I don't know everything. I'm here, So we're really, so much of what we do is less about their classes and more about just getting them ready as people and knowing their value and that they have a voice. And one of the things we talk about is just knowing who you are, knowing where your boundaries are, being able to talk about yourself. But because there was feedback coming in from the companies that Fresno State partners with, that a lot of these businesses will provide internships to Craig School of Business students. And the feedback we were getting is they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to talk to them about themselves. They don't know how to talk to each other because they've been doing it on devices. And so when it comes to being face-to-face, and so there's literally a class now in the Craig School of Business. It started this last year, and the work that we're doing with them in GAL, Gender and Leadership Organizations, what we're called, is going to be a form of a class next year, just to prepare them to know how to know their value, know how to talk about themselves and communicate with each other and work on a team and have conversations without feeling awkward. And, okay, you put this in a text. Let's talk about how you talk about it in person, so it's so interesting the way this is translated. Like they've got all the skills on paper, but so many things, these things we call soft skills, aren't so. I mean, I don't. We villainize the word soft, and soft is actually a strength in so many ways. These skills are the skills that, like, it doesn't matter what you can do from that accounting standpoint. Yeah, you can balance that, but can you talk to somebody confidently? Can you go in and present to them, hey, I've got an idea, this came up, I have a question, and do so confidently? They don't know how to do that in a way. One of the things I work with them on is like, we're not apologizing for having a question or needing help. We're not going, I'm so sorry to bother you. We're going in with, hey, I need some time. This came up. Do you have time right now or time later? We're teaching, because it's difficult to talk confidently when you don't feel confident talking to people.
Well, and I think with that, there's 2 points I would make. That first, we edit everything. So somebody does a video for Instagram, they're not putting it up as it was recorded. It's going to be edited. So that's the first thing that I think it's really scary to go into the world and know, first of all, I can't carry a filter with me. And second of all, I can't edit my comments afterwards. So there's that, that anxiety that comes with, why did I say blank? So I think that's one thing. The other is, think about how much time we spent learning on Zoom, what we're doing right now. You're not looking at people in the eye when you're online with them. You're sort of looking a little bit off, because now I'm looking at the camera, but we don't always do that. And so that eye contact, where yes, in some cultures, that's not, they don't make eye contact, but in, I'll just say, American culture, part of looking confident is that eye contact. And so I think we're also not learning that as much as it would be sort of baked into what our interactions in the past. Now, a lot of our interactions, we're not actually looking at someone, even if we're talking to them like we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing before I go to Dr. Fanny is, one of the things we told our kids when they got their phones, no breaking up with someone over text. If you've got to break up with them, then you have the courage to have a conversation face to face. And if someone breaks up with you over text, you're done with them. Or you demand to have a conversation in person, but there will be none of those things are happening over text, or that phone will be gone. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
That is rude. That is cowardly. That is avoiding a conversation. But yeah, I mean, it is. And the thing too is, we will say things online we'd never say to someone in person. We're seeing that the cyberbullying's off the charts, and you look and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. I know that person. That doesn't sound like them. Well, we're all of a sudden we've got this false sense of courage, which is really just bullying, because we're not get any, there's no pushback until you start fighting with each other online. That's a whole other problem. But yeah, Mary, you were going to go say something.
Just one more thing to your point. So sometimes at least breaking up over text is okay if the alternative is just ghosting, because that's the other thing we can do. We can stop communicating, because now we can block people. So, in the past, in the 1900s, we blocked people by closing our doors and pulling our blinds. Right now, we can just decide on our phone, I'm not allowing them access to me. And so, I think we have to look at, text, breaking up through text is very uncool. However, ghosting is cruel.
I agree. And if I can just add one point here, so the only time that I have said, because I've talked about this multiple times, the only time that I feel like it's okay to like break up with someone over text, if you've had a relationship with them, we're not talking about like early dating stages where you're still talking and but it's if you feel physically unsafe. If you feel physically unsafe, then absolutely put your safety first and send a text message or block them. But yes. I just
Good,
wanted
yeah,
to add.
good point. No, that's a good point. There's always an exception, right, to
There
things. Yeah.
is. And that goes back to the nuance that we talked about earlier. This conversation is nuanced. It's not clearly evil, clearly good. There's a nuance, like with anything. And so it's knowing where does it cross the line into unhealthy. And sometimes we each have to make that decision for ourselves. It's going to be different for each of us. And then communicating that to other people. And not just, communication again, clear communication. All right, Dr. Fanny, you are up.
So much good stuff has already been said. Thank you so much. I'd love to add a few things of my own spice. First, as always, these things are nuanced, as you said, Melissa, and I think there is a second conversation that needs to happen because the studies, the science, and everything says stuff that we are all very aware of. We all know that it creates anxiety. We all know that it's edited. We all know, not everyone, but if you're familiar with social media and start to have a second look at it, you know that there's that going on. And I think the second part that is even more important is give yourself grace with it. Because if talking about it and knowing what was working, then nobody would be smoking. I don't know how it works in the US, but here we have like a neutral package or basically dirty pictures of like cancers and the people dying and everything, and it doesn't change anything. So knowing it's just half of the solution. And so giving yourself grace with social media, with your relationship with it, knowing that, okay, I'm numbing myself right now because my life is going through some shit and I need some, like, trying to bring more consciousness to it instead of being guilty or adding another to-do thing on your to-do list, like stay away of from social media and everything. It's so easy to bring another layer of guilt, another layer of things to do, and not allowing ourselves to have like this love-hate relationship with it. Like I've been silent on Instagram for 2 years and my podcast I've been on hiatus for 2 years because I hate it right now. And yet I'm still on it and I have this app that cuts me from it. So that works too. I think there's this cognitive dissonance that is created by it that makes the anxieties skyrocketing and everything. Like this science is very aware of that. And the last part I would add is that interestingly, when this is going to sound weird, but these conversations are sometimes made between people who might benefit from it, but some people would benefit more. Like when you talk about your health, so you take care about it already and you're educated. But when you're waking up in the morning at 5 a.m. to go to the factory, you work 8 or 9 hours and you come home and you're exhausted. Sometimes social media is a way to survive. So I think it's a good idea as well to notice the cultural impact that it has, but not in what it does, but also the roots that it comes from and how, especially because it's like so selfish centered, noticing like the privileges that goes underneath, how the algorithm works, and how I remember this like the scandal not a few years ago with AI, and basically AI offering like, do you want to see more monkeys pictures when there was like black people on the screens and everything. So there's the consequences for us, there's the consequences on society, and also where it comes from and what we can do to work with it better and focus on how to work it better and how to change our relationship with it. Because I really feel that these tools are not the devil that we are told or we can tend to believe. There's just tools, and like any tools, we need to work with them and learn how to use them, and also give ourselves grace, because you can be a very sports person and then fall off after Christmas or fall off
Yeah.
after pregnancy and then come back again. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay. If for some weeks you're numbing yourself, that's okay. It's more
Yeah.
about developing your resources
Yeah.
than adding it again, as I was saying in the beginning, adding another layer of guilt or another layers. We already have too many to-dos in our lives and so many shit to attend on and take care of, so.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. The level of shame and fear and beating up on ourselves. I think what you brought up though, it's that self-awareness. Like, all right, I'm just going to own right now that I'm tired and I don't have the energy for this, and I'm numbing on some of my favorite accounts right now because this is what I need to do. I think so being and just just naming what it is. It's like, you know what, so I think that again, it goes back to that nuance piece. I think too, this all comes back to, and I know I always bring it around to this, but I believe it's true. It becomes about our value and how well we connect with ourselves and loving ourselves well and supporting ourselves well. Because when we have a strong sense of our own value and we are able to, what I call, embrace our layers and accept all the pieces and parts of our story, and we're able to identify who we are, and not by what we do, but by who we are. And we're able to identify what nourishes us. We're able to identify what we care about and how we want to feel and be accountable for that. That gives us the lens to make these choices through. So it really does come back to us and how we feel about us and doing that work. And if we're raising kids through this, making sure they know that too. Your value isn't based on whether you've made the Snapchat streak or not. That is a thing in 6 months you're not even going to remember or care about. Your value is based that you're witty and you're kind and you're, smart and you're curious. I mean, so, helping that stay at the forefront, checking in with yourself. And again, like Fanny said, giving yourself grace in the nuance of knowing your value, that you're not going to get it right all the time. But if you're present and you're self-aware, then it's like you call it what it is, and you start new the next day. So thank you for that nuance. All right, I'm going to go back around to Jess. Jess, do you have any questions for Dr. Fanny or Mary?
I don't know if I have questions. I have some comments. So I was actually just thinking about the other day. I had a friend text me, and he was saying, like, I'm kind of just like surviving. And I just said to him, I'm like, sometimes that's literally all we can do. And like we all have those phases in our life where we are in survival mode for whatever time period that is. And if going on social media and numbing is what you need in that moment, then I completely agree. I don't think that should be something that you feel guilty about. When we add the guilt and the shame onto ourselves, then that just prolongs that spot that we're in. It's so much more difficult to actually move through it into a better place. So, I'm really happy that you mentioned that, Fanny.
That healthier space to be in. Exactly. Yeah.
And the other thing I was just gonna say was, like, I mean, I know this is common knowledge, but we have like, we're more connected than ever, but we're more disconnected than ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like, my work, it's all about coming back to yourself. So, like you were saying with the self-awareness piece, I really believe that, like, we can use it as the amazing tool that it is for connection. Like, the fact that we are all around the world right now and able to have this conversation, that's pretty incredible. And it has given us so much, and like the amount of knowledge and education that we have access to is incredible. And the relationships that we get to build with people. But I think at some point we have to be able to check in with ourselves. And for me, it's in my body. Like, I can notice and feel in my body when it's like, okay, I need to step away, and then do that. Because I I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. I'm assuming so, but sometimes it's really, really hard to
Yeah.
like actually break that scroll.
Hmm.
And yeah, to like actually put the phone down. It's like I don't know how to describe it, almost like you fall into like the slump, and it's like it's so much easier to just sit here and keep scrolling, even though I know that I'm well past the time that this is beneficial for me,
Hmm.
but it's really hard to stop it. I guess to
Yeah.
change momentum.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that trance. There is a trance-like thing to it, I think. But it's funny you said I was going to say, pay attention. For me, I start seizing this part of my body just starts seizing up, and I start getting tight, and I'm like, oof, it's time to get up and move around. I've been on here long enough. I also have to pay attention to what it's doing to me emotionally, because I am very passionate. I have things that I care very much about in the world right now. And so I can catch myself like, oh, I'm sharing that in my story. I'm sharing that in my story. And I'm getting fired up because I'm sharing that. You're right. You're right. You're right. And I'm like, slow down. That's been enough.
Yeah.
That's been, the people don't need to see any more from you today. You've said enough. And it's also getting you really fired up. So it's time for you to step away, take a breath, go step outside. I'm very lucky where I live. I can open my door. I can step outside. There's birds, there's trees. Yesterday we have a pool, and I was out in the pool, and my husband's like, do you want music? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I just want silence. I just want to hear the birds. I just want to hear the rustling of the trees. It's quiet. It's the perfect temperature today. This is exactly what my nervous system needs right now. So there are times I want my favorite tunes playing on my little speaker, but yeah, I was like, no, and my daughter went out there first, and it was nice and quiet. And then I went out there, and we were just laying there. It was just quiet. And we were together, yet it was just quiet. We didn't have to say anything. We were just having this experience outside in the sun with the trees and the birds together. And it was so settling to my soul. But yeah,
I can feel the peace of that.
yeah, yeah, it really is true. All right. Mary, do you have any questions for Jess or Dr. Fanny?
I do. I have a question for all three of you, but let me preface it by saying I love, Melissa, that you're doing that course, because we've always really sort of done that. It used to be like communication for business, because how to write a letter. And, now we can use AI to do that, but
Yeah.
we can't use AI to really, really, truly write like us and be us. So
Mhm.
I think we'll come around to that, but I think
Yeah.
we need to be aware of what we need to teach young people when we start to see these gaps. And so I
Yeah.
love that that course is happening. So the question I have, because around here there was a school that decided they're going to not allow students to have their cell phones from the minute they walk into the school till they leave at the end of the day. So
Mhm.
is that a thing? I don't know, in France, in Canada, over in California, do you see that happening more, where there are sort of those stoplights being put in place to help them disengage?
We are seeing it here in California for sure. It's happening in the elementary schools, and the junior high and high schools are getting a lot of pushback from students and parents, because parents have also gotten used to being able to get to their kids immediately. And it goes back to like, what do you really need to tell your kid that they have to know that minute? I mean, you're going to be late. Well, they'll see that when class gets out. I mean, is there anything they actually need to know in the middle of class? Really? I mean, did you need to know anything in the middle of class when you were in school from your mom and dad? I mean, so it's interesting that when the pushback comes from the parents, I think what some of that is the problem we're running into is because of the problem with school shootings in this country. There are a lot of parents that are terrified of not having constant contact with their children.
Yeah.
I get that. That's a very real fear. I have lived across the country and have been around college campuses and school campuses with my kids my whole life. My husband's always worked on a college campus. That's a very real fear. And also there's there's just that balancing act. Usually the phones are like close by. They're in a bucket with it where the teacher is. And so I think for around here, I think what I'm hearing is, for the most part, is like, if something like that is occurring, the kids get their phones back. They don't they're not keeping them from them. But we are starting to see it here. And it depends on the professor. It's really class to class. There are some professors at Fresno State that are doing that. They just leave them at the front desk. And when they come in, there are others that are just asking them to turn their notifications off and asking the students to respect that. But yeah, it's something we're seeing here.
Here in Canada, as far as I have been made aware, there hasn't been any changes. No one's taken their phones away. Like when I was in school, it was just, make sure you put your phone away, make sure you have your phone on silent. But nobody ever actually did anything if you took your phone out. Pretty much everybody had their phone out, which I actually think is also a really interesting point, because I feel like we have the ability for deep attention, but we kind of trained our brains out of that because we're constantly interrupted.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as the answer to your question, though, I don't think that's happening here in Canada.
Wow. Fanny, how about France?
I think the law says that you cannot have your phone at school, and there's the law, and then there's the application, and there's
the enforcement. Yeah.
That's the third layer, like the French system by itself, debating and trying to know how you're gonna do what, and wait till you have figured the perfect solution to do anything. So it depends on the school. I think some private schools already have stepped way before the law that, like, this is a private school, we do whatever we want, and so there's no phone in the school. What you mentioned, Melissa, about the parents being pushed back, it's really about getting back to, like, hey, if your kid needs something urgent, then you call the front desk, and the front desk will call the kid, or the kid will go to the front desk, and the front desk will call you. So there's this shift that has been going on. Depends on the school, depends on the speed, depends on the city, depends on, we're actually bringing back uniforms-ish, depending on school willing and whatever. So we're experimenting.
Yeah. Mary, does that surprise you? I mean, you've worked in academia. Does that surprise you?
Well, the part you said about parents, it doesn't surprise me at all, because we assume that parents are always going to be able to control their own use. And as we've just been saying, sometimes we can't even do it. And, but, it was one of those things when I was working in the school system, it would be, you can't text during class. And so many kids would say, but it's my mom. Now the parents know, don't text your kid during class, and they do it anyway. So it's you're fighting sort of the battle on both sides of it. I mean, here we just made it illegal to be holding your phone when you're in a car. So now we're just starting to stop people if they're even at a red light looking at their phone. You can't even do that. But I'm thinking, my God, how long does it take to just be, sensible? But no, actually nothing surprises me. But I think that what they've already seen in the school that's done it here is an increase in interaction, an increase in attention, all the things where, of course, it's common sense that would happen. Right. Yeah. But as Fanny's saying, we still drag our feet on doing the obvious thing. But to sort of circle back, I love that we can start to see what's happening to our young people and then step in to try to mitigate or sort of make something that they kind of sense they already know, make that mandatory for them. And that helps them.
Yeah. And I think too, as parents, I'm going to brag on my brother and sister-in-law a little bit. They've got kids he's much younger than me, and they've got kids that are in elementary and middle school. And they have been very clear from the get-go. They both work. So they wanted, so their oldest got just like a flip phone that could only go back and forth with them when he was like third or fourth grade, I think, and he loves YouTube videos. So he can they have very scripted out. You can be on YouTube for this amount of time when you get up in the morning, and then it's time to go do this thing. They've been clear about those parameters and lines in the sand from the get-go.
Mhm.
So they've been clear about it. They've stayed with it. And my sister-in-law is a high school teacher, and my brother's a medical practitioner. So they see firsthand when these people are a little older what you're going to run into, and it's been effective. As they've gotten a little older, my nephew's in middle school now. There's still some pushback on things, but this is what you get. I don't care what Joey has. That's not how we're doing it here. And this is why. And you don't have to love it, but we're doing this in your best interest. So I think just being clear, having parameters, and let me tell you, those kids will call them out the first thing they see if they see mom and dad violate. And so it keeps everybody accountable.
Yeah.
They're like, you're right. You're right. I did do that. Instead of getting defensive or like, I'm the parent, you're the kid, just having that open dialogue. But they were clear from the get-go. They were on the same page and they established it. I think just they had the advantage of having the knowledge of what they were seeing in their world for the worlds that they work in. And then, my sister-in-law has clear parameters within her class on that she also has really close relationships with her students because of the connections they've created. So I think there is a way to do it. There's no perfect way to do it, but I keep going back to communication with each other in person, not on your phone, but with each other, talking about the pros and cons, because we have access. Like I can't imagine not knowing the three of you and not being able to have this conversation. Like my life would be drastically different without the power of the internet and the ability. I wouldn't know any of you. How much emptier my life would be if I didn't know you, if I hadn't come in contact, if I don't get to learn from you and bring you into these conversations with me. And so, and again, listening to your body, it will tell you. Fanny, do you have any questions or thoughts for Jess or Mary?
One thought to what you just said. Listen to your body. Doing the stuff isn't sexy. Like in the end, it's always a question of listening to your body, love yourself more, meet whatever is going on with grace and kindness, and take care of your health. Like do some amount of physical activity, watch your food. Like the thing that we need to do is not sexy. Like it's basically so simple, but it's too simple for our super smart brains. Like our brains are like, no, this is too simple. Give me something to chew. Give me something I can like circle and go to the rabbit hole with.
It's so true. Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Yeah, and I had a few things that I wanted to add, a few thoughts that came up during this conversation. First is how should I put this? I love going on social media, but what I noticed, and love-hate relationship, and sometimes love, so going on it,
Right.
and I noticed for myself that my algorithm was educated with motivational content. I was full 100% on self-development and motivational talks and things that basically created breakthroughs in my mind and then ended up being followed by nothing. And something changed I read a book, I think it was from Jen Sincero, and she said, there, you have to want your dreams more than you want your drama. And I remember reading that and being like, but how do I want my dreams? And then I noticed that what you want to do, you will be doing it at some point. And there is a time, like a time frame that needs to happen for your internal landscape to shift until this is the right time. Some people wait for their entire life to write their book. And sometimes there is that bing moment that says, okay, now it's the time. And you start writing. Like this motivational content is awesome, but it's also feels a void that and also it creates pressure for having done things yesterday and having the success yesterday. And what shocks me usually is that those kinds of breakthroughs, when they last, they come from conversations. I noticed that the breakthrough that I get from an inspirational TED talk on Instagram or a carousel isn't the same that something my friend will say, or my parents will say, or my partner will say, or my therapist will say. Like this, as if being having it from real life creates a depth that, and it's gonna be, and it's sounding so basic when I say it out loud. You're like, yeah, duh. Of course, there's more depth if if you hear it from like real life experience from a screen. But there's definitely a part of rushing and like trying to compress a time that is necessary. And also,
Yeah.
let's not forget that our brain is designed for comparison. I think like thousands of years ago, the question was, when you see something, have I seen that before? And will you eat me or can I eat you? We're
Yeah.
wired for comparison all the
Mhm.
time. And so it's, as you mentioned earlier, like accepting ourselves, embracing the layers, and noticing that this is what I came to play with. Some
Mhm.
people have more sensitivity, some people are less. Sometimes your life creates circumstances that makes you more sensitive to these dopamine spikes and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I think overall, just like everyone else, everything else, doing the real work isn't sexy. Just like adulting is about owning your choices and keeping up to your words and not putting the blame on anybody if things go wrong.
Yeah. 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 It's that accountability piece. You're right. It is. And it's like, but it is that if it sounds simple, that doesn't mean it's the simple things are usually, I talk about this all the time in terms of like, you don't need to make these big, massive decisions or shifts. Do that one thing for yourself every day. That 10 minutes of quiet, that 5 minute, listening to ocean sounds, that taking a 20-minute power nap. It is those simple things we choose for ourselves each day, but it's remembering that we have the choice. And you mentioned algorithm. I think that's really important. We're going to get back what we feed into it. And again, eat too much of a good thing starts to have its own depletion factor too, because it's like, yeah, there's this societal narrative about do more, accomplish more, be more. And you look around at the people, oh my gosh, they've already, you know, they're already made six figures for 10 years and they have the house and they have the car and they've written a memoir. And it's like, okay, but are they content? They're not you? And we're all designed to live out our own life. I mean, so the comparison thing is so dangerous because it starts asking us to ask things of ourselves that we were never meant for. And so getting back to ourselves and what we want, what we care about, what fills our soul, we were all created uniquely. That's why it's so necessary for us to each know ourselves well, to live out our own life plan. And when we do, we can make healthy decisions for ourselves. I learned this from Dr. Fanny. I try not to use better anymore. I like healthier because I think better even puts kind of a moralizing on it. It's like, so I've chosen, and it's many conversations she and I have had over the years. I like healthier because healthier for me it feels healthier. It feels like I'm not trying to be more accomplished at something. I'm just trying to live truly into myself. And when you have that compass to work from, then you have the guardrails, you have the sense of self, you have the self-awareness to be like, I'm binging on, Netflix all day today. I don't care. I got my movie popcorn. I got my, whatever it is, my giant coffee. And and we're sitting in bed and this is what we're doing today. And tomorrow we'll get up and we'll move. But today we're doing this. But it's that, do you have a sense of awareness and ownership about it? And I think that helps to clarify what it is and just owning. Sometimes you stay too long. Sometimes you go too far. Sometimes, but if you're self-aware, you know that, and you can go back and be healthier tomorrow, or go back and apologize for the things like that was a step too far. I carried that a step too far. I pull back that comment. The beautiful thing about these comments sometimes too, we can delete them. We can go back and delete them. And sometimes you need to just go back and delete them. Or is like, I let the emotion of the moment and the thing take over. It goes back to that knowing who you are and that self-awareness and knowing your value isn't determined by these things that you see and what other people are doing. That's not where your value lies. So, bringing us kind of back home to that. All right. We've already been here almost an hour. Wow. We could talk about this all day. Thank you all so much for everything you brought to this conversation. I'm going to go back one more time and ask you each to share one last thought and where people can find you and follow you. Where the people can find you and follow you will also be in our show notes. I'll get that updated today. And then if you missed the live conversation, we'll be promoting this later this week across all of our channels. But just one last thought and where people can find and follow you.
Yeah, so this actually connects to what Fanny was just saying. I literally just said this last week on a podcast that I think that we have to be careful because in this self-development world, we are so focused on becoming the better version or the best version of ourselves. And I am all for growth. I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to improve, but I feel like there is a point where that can become self-rejection. At what point are we saying, I need to become the better version of myself because I'm not good enough as I am right now?
Yeah.
And yes. So that's my final thought.
Yeah.
I can be found at my website, jessicavanrose.com, or on Instagram, which is Jess Van Rose. I am actually holding my very first online meditation event. So I have been doing in-person meditation events, and I am now doing an online one. So on June 23rd at 7 p.m. Tickets are only $22 Canadian. It's an hour long. We'll do a guided meditation, a little bit of journaling, reflection, and there's some time for optional sharing. But yes, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Is that on your website? Can people sign up for that on your website?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah. I think it's that. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That was so good. And another advantage of having this access that you can present that to people. Absolutely. All right, Mary, one last thought and where people can find and follow you.
Okay, so one last thought. I'm going to put a finer point on what Fanny said because she's right. We have to compare to learn. So comparison is not the thief of joy. Judgment of our comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
So be very aware. Yes, be very aware. Kind of goes to what Jess is saying too. Don't judge, just be curious and, yeah. So where you can find me. So maryrothwell.net is my website. You can find my podcast there. You can find information on my book, my coaching, and I also have variaconsulting.com, which is information on doing staff training, keynotes, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Because if you guys listen to my podcast, you hear me say curiosity over judgment all the time. That was the single most important thing I've learned in the last 10 years is when I feel myself getting judgmental, get curious instead. So good. Thank you so much for that, Mary. All right, Fanny, one last point and where we can find you.
I love the curiosity over judgment. So hard to apply.
I know. I practice every day.
What I always love to say is that you're worthy, you are deserving, and you are enough, even if you don't feel like it. I think this is something that we need to tell ourselves even more, to ourselves and to each other.
Yeah.
So my website is fannyLeboulanger.com. Might be a little bit challenging, but who knows? It's in English, though I'm French. And I have a podcast. It's been on hiatus for quite a while, but it's coming back soon. And it's called Your Sexified Life. Keep the Y at sexy because I'm French. I misspelled it and I like it, so I kept it. And yes, that will be all for me. I have Instagram. It's at with Dr. Fanny as well.
Okay.
And on hiatus, but sometimes when I get
Yeah.
great ideas, I'll put them out there.
Yes, yes. And they're always good. They're always good.
Aw.
Oh my gosh. And you all three, yeah. So go to their website, check out their podcasts, check out their books, check out their meditations, check out everything they have to offer. These are very smart, intuitive, wise women who are doing the work, who are practicing it with curiosity over judgment, like we talked about. And I think what I appreciate about all of you is that the willingness to continue to learn. I think that we have to not confuse that with do more, do more, do more. When we learn something new, we own that we learn it, we unlearn, and we just be like, yes, I did used to feel that way, but I've learned. So I'm healthier in that space now. And I've changed my mind about that. That's where the growth happens. It's not about accomplishment. It's about just that curiosity, keeping aware, owning that this is a process and a journey. You don't just arrive and then you're done. I mean, you can. People sometimes decide to do that, but I believe it's to theirs and other people around them's detriment. But thank you so much, all of you, for joining this conversation today. Remember that this impact of instant media, you get to choose. You get to choose parameters. You get to choose how you can engage with it. You get to choose. So don't lose sight of that choice you have within it and enact that. Pay attention to what your body's telling you. Thank you so much for listening today. We appreciate you all so much. We'll be back next week with another conversation here on Together We Feel. Next week, we're going to be talking about Juneteenth and the history of Juneteenth. And we're going to have some powerful women joining me to speak into their own experiences about that. And we're going to have some history nuggets for you because Juneteenth is coming up on June 19th. We always do these on Monday, so it's going to come a few days before, but it'll give you the wink to think about it. And again, another chance to learn. So we hope you'll join us for that. But thank you all for being with me today. Jess, Mary, Dr. Fanny, I appreciate you all so much. Take good care of yourselves, audience. Remember, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you get to choose. We'll see you next time here on Together We Feel.